The NBA offseason might not be over just yet, as a new LeBron trade rumor just breathed life into the possibility of him and Steph Curry teaming up in Golden State. Jake Fischer just reported on the Warriors' continued interest in trading for LeBron, and even went further to say that these discussions go back as far as 18 months, even before the Lakers traded for Luka Doncic. Now, even though that's pretty crazy, it's not completely out of nowhere. We know that LeBron has been unhappy in LA this offseason. He and his agent released a statement essentially saying they feel like the Lakers are more focused on the future than they are on LeBron, a sentiment that is almost certainly connected to their trade of Anthony Davis for Luka Doncic, and that statement framed LeBron's time with the Lakers as something that was in the past, fueling all kinds of speculation that LeBron might actually want to trade this offseason. And there were a bunch of destinations thrown out there: a crosstown trade to the Clippers, heading to the Mavs to team back up with not only Anthony Davis but also Kyrie, heading back to South Beach with the Heat, but then nothing really came of it. LeBron opted back into his $50+ million option with the Lakers. The Lakers seemed fine with it, and it just seemed like we were going to go into the season with things being weird between LeBron, the Lakers, and Luka. But here's the thing. I do actually think the Lakers would trade LeBron this offseason. I honestly think they'd be totally fine with it. I talked about this in a previous video, but they're just kind of over the LeBron experience. They needed him in 2018. They won a title with him in the bubble, but they moved on. The days of him controlling the organization are over. They've moved on to the Luka era, and regardless of what happens this season, I do not think LeBron will be on the Lakers in the 2026 offseason, whether that be due to retirement or free agency. So if they think they could get some value for LeBron to put some better pieces around Luka, I absolutely think they'd make that move, which is a huge departure from any other point in LeBron's career. He's wanted to leave his team before, but his team has never wanted him to leave, which makes this a real possibility. And the Warriors would just be a logical choice for both sides. In theory, a core of LeBron, Steph, and Jimmy Butler gives all of them a really good chance at competing for a title, and importantly, given LeBron's comments about the Lakers, those three guys and the organization itself are all on the same timeline. They want to win now while Steph still has some good years left, while the Lakers have a 26-year-old Luka that they still have to plan the future around. And it's been known since Team USA that LeBron and Steph would love to have a chance to play together at some point, and that was really when a lot of this speculation ramped up about LeBron going to Golden State. But if you go back to what I said earlier, I intentionally left a name out of that Warriors core, and that would be Draymond Green. And that's because he is an essential part of all of this. Given the needs of the roster when adding LeBron, would the Warriors be willing to part with the last non-Steph piece of their dynasty in order to get LeBron and Steph another great chance at a ring? Well, it doesn't really matter if they'd be willing to, because if they want to trade for LeBron, they'd have to move Draymond to do it. Which gets to the core of why LeBron has not been traded to this point, to the Warriors or anyone else. LeBron actually had a chance to enter into free agency this offseason if he had declined his $50+ million player option, but chose not to because nobody in free agency could sign him to a deal worth anything close to the $50 million he could have just made with the Lakers. But that salary is the exact reason LeBron is pretty difficult to trade for. At this point, you're not only trading for a much older version of LeBron, but also possibly just one more year of him, as there's been a lot of speculation that this will be his last season in the NBA. Now, don't get me wrong, LeBron is still an all-NBA caliber player as he was last year, but any team around the league would want to be careful in terms of how much they're giving up for 1 year of LeBron well past his prime, which is difficult to do when you also have to match his giant $50 million salary, which is where the Draymond part of all of this comes in for the Warriors. When you look at their salaries, they have Steph and Jimmy, of course, and then not a whole lot else in terms of big salaries they can send out to try and match the giant contract of LeBron, and just because of that math, Draymond has to be in the trade. The reason they don't have any of those other bigger contracts is because they already traded them when they sent guys like Andrew Wiggins to the Heat for Jimmy Butler. And that's also likely why the Warriors were connected to LeBron trades, even going back 18 months, according to this report. Pre-Jimmy trade, LeBron to the Warriors was a much easier deal to put together and likely would have looked pretty similar to the package that was sent to Miami in exchange for Butler and would have kept Draymond in Golden State, but that's simply no longer an option. Which means this is essentially what the trade would have to look like if the Warriors wanted to make it. Draymond plus Moses Moody plus Buddy Hield in exchange for LeBron. Now that's just to make the money work. If you want to talk about picks and other assets, that's fine. But if we're trying to build a realistic actionable LeBron trade, this is where you'd have to start. Which brings up the question that every other potential LeBron trade destination team had to ask themselves this offseason. Is this really worth it? I mean, that seems crazy. It is LeBron after all, but just one season of LeBron for multiple rotation players, including someone as important as Draymond, seems like too high a price. It's the same situation the Mavs would be in, where they'd have to trade multiple starters just to get close to matching LeBron's salary, and at that point, you're just giving up too much depth. It's weirdly reached the point where the value of just one more year left of LeBron just isn't worth what you'd have to give up just to match his salary. But that doesn't mean that this is impossible. If the Warriors and LeBron had some conversations where he assured the Warriors that he would play for at least this season and next year, I think they'd consider the deal. That lines up exactly with the contracts of Jimmy and Steph and gives that core of three guys a clear 2-year window in which to go all in and compete to end each of their careers, and would bring a ton of money and attention to the franchise. And at that point, I think the Warriors would consider this trade package. The problem is, would the Lakers consider the trade? I mean, yes, Moody is a solid piece and Hield gives you spacing, but do you want Draymond? We've never seen him outside of the Warriors system. He's getting up there in age and might not be a great chemistry fit with the rest of the roster. The contract isn't bad and has just 2 more seasons on it, but at what point would you rather just have LeBron and then let him walk in a year rather than adding on the salary? At that point, you could just try and find a third team that would maybe want Draymond and bring some other assets back to the Lakers, but 3-team deals are notoriously difficult to actually get to go through, especially this late in the offseason when most teams are pretty much set in stone. All of which makes this happening pretty difficult, but as I said, it's not impossible. If LeBron truly believes the Lakers are no longer focused on trying to win now, he could absolutely make things weird enough for them to consider a trade, whether that be now or at the trade deadline. And if that happens, the Warriors would certainly be at the top of his list. Maybe by that point, a Draymond suitor emerges, or the Warriors season isn't going how they want it to, so they try to shake some things up. There's just a lot of pressure here on the Lakers to make things work with Luka immediately, and on LeBron to try and win another title, and on the Warriors to compete during the last few years of Steph, and that much pressure can create some crazy outcomes. And given all of the obstacles to this, the Draymond situation, LeBron's contract, the Lakers and Warriors actually agreeing to a trade, potentially finding a third team for Draymond, that's what it would take to make this actually happen. It'd be one of the biggest trades in the history of the league. LeBron actually getting traded. All this pressure would have to come together in order for this to actually happen. Now, if I had to make a prediction, I'd say LeBron's going to be on the Lakers this year, and then he's going to either retire this upcoming offseason or leave in free agency, but I'm much less confident in that prediction now than I would have been at the beginning of the offseason.